Long time no see. It seems like a lot of people are on the fence about Marathon, and I have some thoughts as somebody who's been around extraction shooters since the beginning of Tarkov. My goal is to help you decide if Marathon is a good choice for you, but please feel free to share your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, please like and subscribe. In the background, I've included footage of my second raid. There is some PvP, but note that this footage is meant to be the new player experience. So, Marathon. Let's start with the facts. Marathon is made by Bungie, the same studio that produced both Halo and Destiny. The first Marathon game dropped in the 90s, and it was considered groundbreaking because of its story and its level design. Our current version of Marathon is an extraction shooter. It has 18 player matches. I've heard that solo matches contain 6 players, and that seems to track. Marathon is a player versus environment game. You play as runners. They are pillaging the remains of a human colony on the planet of Tau Ceti 4. There's 7 different runners that you can play as, and they have your standard hero shooter abilities and passives. These include things like damage, invisibility, healing, that sort of thing. Teams can have multiples of the same runner. You have hard stats like agility and access to a couple different skill trees. Marathon has launched with 3 maps, and there's a 4th on the way. This 4th map is supposed to be an endgame area that has more intricate PvE mechanics, allegedly similar to raid bosses in Destiny. Marathon contains a solo queue and a trio queue. The solo queue is only against other solos unless you play as a specific runner named Rook. You can play duos, but at the time of this video, there is no specific duo queue, so you'll likely be matched with trios. Do note that you can fill your squad with randoms. Marathon offers proximity chat, and you're free to team up, but note that other players here are not typically friendly. Marathon's gameplay loop is to accept a contract from a faction. These are similar to vendor quests in Ark or Tarkov. You then build up your kit, or you take a free one and you deploy into the raid. Once in the raid, you do the task, you extract, and then you get your reward. The catch here is that you can only have one active contract at a time. The early contracts get you exploring the map and doing some interesting things, but later contracts can become menial. Completing these contracts will increase your rep with the faction that issued them. As your rep increases, you can buy and barter different items from said faction. Note that there is no joining a faction, that is, you're a mercenary and working for all of them simultaneously. Talking about the gear, weapons are just weapons. They're not tiered until you equip mods. Shields are tiered. You have your white shields, green shields, blue shields, and purple shields. Different rarities will give you different armor values, but also different stat penalties. You have a backpack slot, and you have gear slots. The gear can include utility items like grenades, mines, and ammo boxes. You also have slots for implants and cores. These items can influence your character's stats and abilities. This gives you room to build craft and to tool yourself out a little bit beyond the typical extraction shooter. In terms of gameplay, your abilities have their own cooldowns, and instead of stamina, you have a heat meter. Things like sprinting and sliding will increase heat. When you overheat, your mobility suffers. A cool detail is that environmental effects, like cold rain, can affect how rapidly you generate heat. A raid in Marathon lasts for 25 minutes. As you play a raid, extraction points open and close. They don't start open. Loot quality increases the longer that a raid goes on, but so do the spawns and intensity of the AI enemies. Another interesting part of Marathon is that there is no save pocket. When you die, you lose everything on your character. Marathon's onboarding will essentially teach you what an extraction shooter is. It will not teach you how to play Marathon specifically. More on this later. Marathon will wipe every 3 months, purging your vault, faction progress, and character progression. So, those are the facts about the game and the basic rundown about how Marathon fits into the genre. Alright, So, what's good and bad about Marathon? The number one positive is the gunplay. Bungie can absolutely nail shooting mechanics and feel. The guns in Marathon are fantastic, interesting, and brutal. This leads to some pretty intense gunfights, whether they're against other players or the AI. The overall flow of the gunplay, movement, and ability usage is incredibly smooth. It doesn't feel quite like Destiny's Crucible, but it does feel inherently like Bungie. I could even say that the general movement reminds me a bit of the older Halo games. For the most part, you need to stay grounded and utilize movement tools when appropriate, and Marathon gives you enough tools to create that movement skill gap that the best shooters have. But there's nothing here that's so overwhelming that a more casual player couldn't enjoy it. Right now, the time to kill is fast. And I've heard some gripes about who shoots first wins. There's certainly truth to that, but that's also true in the vast majority of FPS games. I dare say that gunfights feel a bit similar to Hunt Showdown. Some are over in a blink, while others are drawn out and full of rotations. The game's aesthetic is one for the books. I can't say that the color saturation is my favorite, but it is unique, and it does occupy a distinctive space in the gaming market. The general atmosphere of the game is top-notch. Marathon has a menacing undertone throughout every single liminal space that it provides. I like this, and Marathon is eerie. It's reminiscent of Tarkov, at least in solos. Marathon is also very good at creating tension through sound, and overall, the game puts you in a state of uneasiness that is sorely missing from games like Arc Raiders. Good sound is a requirement for this kind of game, and what surprised me was how far away I could hear enemy runners. But weapons sound punchy, and in my first couple raids when I heard other runners shoot, I found judging the distance to their shots to be instinctive. Marathon's aesthetic does have two major points of contention though, not counting saturation or the abusive amount of cyan. I think that a lot of buildings and POIs are not very distinctive, and there's a lot of dead space between them. I have to admit that the individual maps do feel distinct, but there is not a lot of differentiation between the indoor spaces. Sure, you might be in a barracks or in a medical room, but for the most part, a lot of spaces have extremely similar vibes. And nothing on the maps has really stood out to be terribly imposing or dominating. The other aesthetic design choice that I have to mention is the UI. Now, one thing up front, I actually do not think that the UI is that bad, and I will come around to make my point eventually. The UI is much easier to navigate than it appears, and once you've been in it, you'll figure it out. The vibe can be overwhelming, but it is cohesive, and I really appreciate a game that carries its aesthetic into the UI. Hunt used to, Arc does, Tarkov does. This cohesion is superior, at least in my mind, to games like Battlefield 6, where the UI feels a bit sterile, even if it's cleaner. And this also means that the experience of starting up Marathon, gearing up, raiding, extracting, combing through your gear feels like one connected experience where you are the runner, and that's cool. What isn't cool are the UI controls. And doing basic things like putting mods on weapons, manipulating the vault, and determining what items do what can be a pain. For example, a lot of the cores and implants look very similar. Simply put, this means that Marathon is going to force you to read. But the system is interesting, and it will allow for more complex builds down the line. Plus, it adds tension to the game when you can't immediately identify each piece of loot. So my point, and this carries further into Marathon as a whole, is that the game does a really good job of being a haunting enigma. And I've only ever really seen that with Escape from Tarkov, at least in multiplayer games. Things in Marathon feel mysterious and they feel dangerous. While the UI could be better, it does serve the game in its own way, for better or for worse. But a big complaint that I've seen about the game is the onboarding process. I have a counterpoint for you, but first, let me agree that yeah, it does suck. But is that bad? See, when Escape from Tarkov dropped, no one had any idea what the hell was going on. Tarkov was a mystery. It had no onboarding experience. It was just, here's your stash, here's the play button, figure it out. The only thing you needed to know was that it was kill or be killed. And in a way, this lack of onboarding can aid in creating that mystery. So yes, the onboarding is poor, but I do think it can be interesting if you adopt a different mindset. If you have what's called gear fear, you'll likely find Marathon frustrating and punishing. I would encourage you to view the game more like a Souls-like, where everything is new and we need to discover it together. Marathon's lore is good, and Bungie specifically is great at creating puzzles and giving its community things to decipher. Just remember this, you're going to die. The game is going to wipe. It's never your gear, just your turn with it. Okay, so Bungie. I remember going to the midnight release of Halo 3 and staying up way too late on a school night. I remember so many kids being absent the following day. It was a real event and a really special thing. But this is not the same Bungie. Without getting too specific, Bungie has made some incredibly questionable choices in Destiny 2. These choices include sunsetting weapons and vaulting content. With sunsetting, a lot of weapons that were sunset were later reintroduced, meaning if you wanted them back for late game content, you had to redo the whole grind. Vaulting removed a lot of older content from the game, including content that was paid for. Now, I've heard this can happen in MMO games, which I don't play. But this removal of content made the Destiny experience feel completely disjointed at times. Destiny also had its fair share of microtransactions and FOMO. That's not uncommon in this industry, but there has been a trend with Bungie and anti-consumer practices. All I'm saying is that my personal level of trust in Bungie isn't great. I don't see Bungie as they once were, and they're not beyond using FOMO and predatory practices to get you to spend money and to grind away your free time. Of course, you can always just stop playing. You're not their prisoner. And to Bungie's credit, the battle passes for Marathon will not be time gated. But I just don't like Bungie's live service model. A lot of people like to criticize Tarkov about being a game for the unemployed. While Tarkov might be a demanding game, there was never a tremendous incentive to play it beyond the game just being good. But this isn't to say that battle state games hasn't been sketchy in their own way. But back to Bungie. Bungie also asked reviewers to withhold reviews on Marathon until they release the 4th map, which I think is towards the end of March. This makes me wonder if Bungie knows what direction that Marathon is going. Regardless, I find that this is a strange request that really cements Marathon as a live service product that can be bent to Bungie's will. I also don't think that Marathon will hit huge numbers in player count. I think it's going to be a more dedicated and hardcore audience similar to Hunt. Now, Bungie probably knows this too, but I do wonder if Bungie is hoping for Destiny levels of MTX and player retention. This could mean that Marathon is ultimately considered a failure, even if it's a good game. So, all of this said, and I'm trying to be pretty neutral towards the game, because, to be honest, I don't know if I'm totally sold on it. Where does Marathon fit in? I would place Marathon between Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown, with Hunt being more extraction shooter adjacent. The intensity and complexity of items is much more similar to Tarkov, but the tools and gunfights feel similar to Hunt Showdown. I want to be clear and say that this game is not like Destiny. In Marathon, gear definitely creates an advantage, and like most games in the genre, it can be a pretty big one if the disparity is large enough. But it isn't impossible to kill someone with better gear, if you shoot first or outplay them. I also want to say that I think a lot of people have been introduced to the genre by Arc Raiders. I love Arc. I've done both expeditions, and I plan on doing the third. I will warn you that Marathon is not occupying the same space. Again, this game is more akin to Tarkov or to Hunt. It is possible that the next map will create more of a PvE focus, but I wouldn't count on the typical Marathon lobby ever being friendly. So, if that's what you're looking for, you're probably in the wrong neighborhood. If you're looking for more of a cooperative extraction shooter, I'm going to plug the awesome Gray Zone Warfare. If you want a tense and lethal game where playing slow or fast can both be options, Marathon seems to fit that, at least so far. Do I recommend Marathon? I'm going to be honest and say maybe. Let me say that Marathon is a great playing and great running game, and it has an intensity to it. Marathon might be a good buy if you feel like your Tarkov chapter is over, or if Arc Raiders is too friendly. But Marathon is in limbo. The solo mode was tacked on towards the end of development, and it plays a lot differently than trios. And while more mechanics are coming to the game, we're not sure what they are or what the different experiences are within Marathon. I think waiting is the right call. In the meantime, if you're looking for PvP and you haven't played Hunt, you should go do that. And if you want to play a horror game disguised as a shooting game, you should go play Tarkov. To sum my thoughts up, I think Marathon sits between those two games, but they both do something better. Hunt is more concise in its lethality and general direction, and Tarkov creates more tension over loot in an eerie atmosphere. Personally, I'm going to be enjoying Arc Raiders a little bit longer, and waiting to see how Bungie and Marathon shake out. As always, if you enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the bayou.